Hello everybody, today I'm going to go through this Arduino based switch box for controlling disks on a Windows PC. Okay, so this is the switch box. It's just built into a small project box with two arcade buttons on the front, and its purpose is to control the disks on my Windows based server. I'm unfortunate enough to have to sleep in the room with the machine, so the number of disks I have in there, when they run, they're noisy, and this is to turn the thing on and off and display the status at the same time. So let's get the thing opened up. Adam Savage is entirely to blame for me being the proud owner of some Bondhouse keys. They are fantastic. They're very, very good. Right, lid off. This is a 3D printed lid I made because I lost the original one with the little cutout for the connector on the little micro Arduino. These are the internals. There's not really much to it. It's just two arcade switches, obviously green and red, with the micro switches, clicky micro switches at the back, which I love the sound of, and the Arduino itself, which is just here. And it has foam over the ends of all the pins I'm not using to protect it. I can't get it out because it's hot glued in place, but you can just about see the pins that are in use on the two sides. Not many of them at all. You just have inputs as the switches, two switches, and outputs as the LEDs, which run straight from the Arduino. Yeah, I know you're probably not supposed to do that, but these are intended for 5 volts. I bought the switches in bulk from Amazon. These are them. These aren't sort of Sanwa arcade ones. They're just sort of cheapy ones. But they do have proper micro switches, and they are quite nice. If you haven't seen one before, Big Clive did a teardown on one of these. It's much better than mine, but the micro switches disconnect, and they have the LED in the end, which there we go. Sorry, it's in a lamp holder, which can be changed, and I believe they're color coded as well. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, they're color coded. So this is a white one because it's white, and then this one's red, and it's just the leads are folded over. I think Big Clive did a conversion on some tungsten ones actually. Get back in there. Anyway, so now you've seen how this works, I'm going to show you the software, which is the main part of this really. The box is literally just a housing for these two buttons, but I will actually point out that this connector at the top, the Arduino connector, micro USB, has one of these little magnetic connectors inside it, which I love these things, I really do, because it's held onto the top of my server case by magnets. Sometimes I need to move the server and I forget that it's still on the top. So I've already broken one of these Arduinos. I actually busted the USB connector straight off the board. So I've added this, and it uses one of these magnetic connectors. This is purely just connected to power at the moment. So it will power up the Arduino with 5 volts. This is the one I use for charging. But the one connected to my machine has data as well, and that's the one you'll see in action in a moment. Jump cut. These are actually the cables that I was using. I thought I'd show them off a bit more. They're NetDot branded cables. The Gen 3 and Gen 7 are compatible with each other. They're a little bit hard to get hold of now, which is why I stocked up on them. I used this red one in the Smart because it was so convenient to be able to just click onto the bottom of the phone. But they're all the same type with the magnetic end, and it just clicks on. In fact, I have my new iPhone here, and it's just so convenient for charging. Very, very handy. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work on this GoPro because it doesn't fit in the case, but you can get USB-C, micro USB, and Lightning. And yeah, I have several sets of these because they're just so damn handy for everything, and perfect for use with the Arduino to make sure I don't break the connector Okay, now I'm finished. Let's look at the software.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the software. This is the code I've written and tweaked over time. Some bits are taken from various websites, so I'll talk you through it all. So the first thing we have to do is include the keyboard, because we're going to be using a keyboard. There's a received character, a timer, a start position, a start number for the timer, and a number called fade amount, which we'll come back to. And then we're setting our pins. We have pin 3 and 4, which are the switch pins, and then we have pins 5 and 6, which are the LED output pins. Serial is then activated because we're going to be using serial to communicate with the Windows PC, and then that will, it says it's ready. I don't need to really have that line in there, but it's just part of the standard serial setup. So the main code, when it gets the daytime command, when you press the green button, that's pin 3 going to ground. So the pull up brings it up, and then you take it to ground by pressing it. That sends a keyboard command, Control Alt Shift 1, and that's all left in this case. That is corresponding to the shortcut I'll be showing you later, which is for the daytime power. And this is for the manual control. The opposite, the red button, is pin 4. When that's pulled to ground, you get Control Alt Shift 2, and then it sends those. There's a little 10 millisecond delay between each one. That's what I found worked best, and then it releases them all. So that will send the keyboard commands to the PC to activate the day and night cycles. Now, just switching over briefly to the server itself, these are the two shortcuts that are referenced by the Control Shift Alt buttons, commands, and it activates these two batch files. In the batch files, it references the Powershell scripts above. So this runs the Powershell script. Let's have a look at the Powershell scripts briefly, because the next part of the command won't make sense otherwise. So we're going to cut back to the Arduino command shortly, but I'm going to go through the Powershell first so that it makes sense. So this is the daytime. The nighttime is basically the same, but we have the initial setup of the serial matching the Arduino. It's using COM3. That's the port it always uses with this USB cable. Obviously, if you're replicating this, you would need to find out which port it is. You'll find that out as part of the Arduino setup. This opens up the port, and then in this case, it's enabling the disk because as part of the day and night, I actually disable the disk rather than sort of expecting it to turn off. I actually just disable the whole disk, and then everything shuts down and it's silent. These Western Digital Reds they're great discs, but they're a little noisy, and there's like 5 or 6 of them in this machine. So in this case, it turns it on. This is the daytime. It then sets a power config scheme, which is the daytime one. This is to bring the disks online fast. It maybe not necessary, but that's how I do it anyway. It keeps the disks online. Then we get to the part that will make sense with the rest of the Arduino code. It's going to send serial data to the Arduino. So this is now sending serial data to tell the Arduino that it's setting the power config, the power configuration, and there are 2 different serial commands that go through. This is to blink the LED. This is basically to tell you it's working, it's doing something, it's received. And then once it's done, and it checks here, it then sends a 1, which is telling the Arduino that it's complete. And it then closes the port at the end. In the nighttime one, it sends a 4 to say that it's doing it, and then a 3. It's kind of backwards, but the way the code's written on the Arduino, it makes sense. So the 4 is to tell it that it's in progress, and then the 3 is to tell it it's finished. And this turns the disk off. It sets the disk offline to true. And yeah, this just keeps the thing quiet. So I'm going to switch back over to the Arduino code now, and we'll complete that. Okay, so back to the Arduino code. Now this second section will make sense. We've stopped the keyboard, and now we are working with serial data. We have the received character, which is going to be what it reads from serial. If that's a 1, we then set a solid green, which is just here. It will fade up. This is something I've been messing around with, and it actually fades up with analog to make it look good. You could just simply have a digital write. It ensures that it's off first, because sometimes it can. Well, that actually turns off the other one. Sorry, that turns off the opposite colour. And if it's a 2, that then goes through a fade cycle of flashing. It's a little complicated, but basically it's just turning the light on and off with a timer until the timer reaches 1, and then it stops. Each time it runs, I'm pointing at the screen, I don't need to use the cursor. So it starts the timer flashing the green, and then when the timer, every time it takes 1 away, the timer starts at 15, and then it finishes then. The fade amount is what we set earlier. You set the fade amount higher, it will flash faster. You can take the sample code and you can play with it. It makes sense. It's just a little hard to explain, and it was a little hard for me to understand initially. We then have the same for the red LED. It's just a delay in the time, and the fade amount just sets the whole thing up. You can set the timer to make it run for longer. You can set the fade amount to make it faster. It will actually end based on receiving the character as well, character 3. Okay, so now we've been through the software. I'm back on the server again. I'm going to demonstrate how this works. Because I'm using RDP, the button command from the box doesn't actually work. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcuts just to demonstrate that. It'll look exactly the same. It also means that I'm not going to be reaching in front of the other camera I have set up pointing at the box to press the buttons and move the thing around. So at the moment we're online. We have the media disk showing with its small amount of space, and I'm going to run the command to turn it off. Control-Alt-Shift-2. So that brings up the batch file, PowerShell, and you can see the red lights flashing to indicate it's turned off. The flashing is actually modelled after the doors and bits and pieces from Alien Isolation. I realised after I built it that it looks really similar to the Alien universe, red and green lights. I'm really tempted to redesign the case to make it look like that, but that could be quite a lot of effort. Anyway, that's what the flashing is set to look like. So that's off, and you can see the disk has disappeared. That's offline in disk management. Now if I do Control-Alt-Shift-1, we get the command say daytime, and the green light's flashing to say that's in progress. The disk is now back, and in a couple of seconds the light will stop flashing, and that's done. Another element I have set up is to run these with scheduled tasks. So I have this set up so that it will turn on and off when I want it to with scheduled tasks, so I don't have to press the button every time. And it really is really simple. It's just at certain times, on certain days, it just runs the batch file. Nothing complicated at all about this. It runs it as my normal account, and it isn't even logged in either. And that just runs the batch file you've already seen. It's pretty simple, really. The clever part is the communication between the machine and the Arduino with serial with PowerShell. It works quite well. So I don't know if anybody was looking to make something like this. If you were, I hope this was useful and you're able to go through that project. Good luck with it. If you weren't, I hope it was at least interesting. I was finally inspired to make this video by a video I saw by DuctTape Mechanic. He was looking at remote controls, wireless remotes controlling Arduinos, and I have a few ideas. I'd like to have a an LED clock which can be turned on and off at certain times. I don't have any Alexa or any enabled devices in the house. I don't really want those, but if I can control something with a couple of Arduinos and my PC using this same technology, that will be great. So I think that's something I'm going to try, the relatching versions of the switches he showed, and I'll link to his video below so you can see that as well. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.